you hear this voice? Then you're here. But who told you this is reality? Maybe it's just part of a dream you're having, but you've grown so used to it that you don't even realize you're inside an illusion, created by someone or something you don't understand. And what if everything you know, all your memories, desires, fears, are nothing but a dream? What if all your sensations, thoughts, your entire idea of the world, even this voice you're hearing right now, are just fragments of a vast dream someone else is having, and you're playing a role in it, without ever knowing that there's no way out? Not your dream, someone else's, and you're just a part of it, merely one of countless images flickering in the mind of an unknown sleeper. And the moment they wake up, you'll be gone, because you never truly existed. You were just a reflection of their dream, a projection of their mind. Science fiction, or are we simply refusing to see the obvious? Let's take a closer look. What if your whole life is a sequence of random events, unfolding only because someone is dreaming them? And the moment the dream ends, all your memories, fears, and desires will vanish, because you were never real to begin with. Since the earliest days of human existence, people have asked, what is reality, and how can we be sure that our world truly exists? They gazed into the night sky, wondering if their lives were nothing more than the brief flicker of a star in the infinite darkness of the universe, no more than an illusion woven from thoughts and memories. We perceive the world through our senses, but how can we know they aren't deceiving us? That sight, hearing, and touch aren't just creating an artificial image of reality, while the brain fills in the missing pieces, crafting a coherent yet ultimately false picture of existence. What if what we call reality is actually just a long, unending dream that began sometime in the past, and we've simply forgotten how or why we ended up inside it? The great philosopher Zhuangzi once said, "I dreamed I was a butterfly, or was the butterfly dreaming it was me?" This is one of the oldest and most mysterious questions, still making us wonder where the line lies between the real and the imagined. If I feel alive, if I see the sun, if I sense the cold wind on my skin, isn't that proof the world around me exists? Or is this only a dream from which I cannot awaken, and everything I believe to be my life is just an illusory construction, not sustained by me, but by someone else, the one truly having this dream? Perhaps we'll never find the truth, because the moment we begin to question the dream itself, it begins to defend itself, spawning new illusions to lead us away from the answer. Plato, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, believed our world is nothing more than shadows, projections of a true reality we cannot perceive. In his Allegory of the Cave, he describes people chained from birth, watching shadows on a wall for their entire lives and believing them to be the only reality. But what if we are just like those prisoners? What if our world is just another projection, another illusion, another shadow cast by something far greater and utterly beyond our comprehension? Maybe every thought we have, every movement, every emotion is just a faint reflection of something that truly exists outside this dream. But we cannot understand it, because we ourselves are merely characters within this dream, not meant to escape, but to continue existing according to a predefined script. René Descartes, one of the founders of modern philosophy, spent years searching for an undeniable truth he could rely on, and eventually arrived at the famous conclusion, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. But what if even this isn't proof of reality? What if the very act of thought, the capacity for awareness, is just another function of the dream, allowing us to believe we are real? We can doubt everything around us, objects, people, events, but we cannot doubt that we think. Yet if the dream is constructed so perfectly, with logic, with consistent events, with a sense of time, then we'll never be able to escape it, because even the act of thinking, of doubting, is part of the dream. So the real question is not how to prove reality exists, but how to realize you're dreaming. when the dream is tailored so flawlessly to your expectations that it gives you no way out. Ancient Buddhists claimed that the world is Maya, an illusion created to prevent us from seeing the truth. Their teachings say that only through deep awareness, through transcending perception, can one break the cycle of rebirth and escape the infinite loop of dreams that may stretch not just through one lifetime, but through all eternity. They believe the mind is a cage we live inside, and that true liberation is possible only when we realize that we have never truly lived, but merely existed as a projection of someone else's consciousness. But what if even that idea is just another level of the dream, yet another system built to keep us inside, giving us the illusion of choice, while simply spinning us into a new cycle of the same illusion? If we cannot distinguish dreams from reality, if the world around us behaves as if it's real, if the laws of physics hold true, if we have memory, if we have a past, can we really say anything exists beyond this dream? Maybe our search for truth is just a meaningless game written into our programming, so we never discover the core truth, that awakening is impossible because none of us were ever asleep. Or maybe the truth is so incomprehensible that it can't be put into words, and that's why every time we try to find it, reality becomes more complex, more confusing, feeding us new layers of dreams, new levels of awareness, leading us not toward awakening, but deeper into ourselves. So where is the boundary? When can we say, here it is, reality? Or perhaps the only reality is the realization that we will never escape this dream, because we are the dream itself. And maybe that is the most terrifying truth, that we live in a maze with no exit, not because someone else built it, but because we did. And the only door that leads out is the one we can never open, because it's not outside of us, it's within. Science has proven that our brain models reality. But what if what we perceive as reality is simply a deeper layer of sleep? After all, when you fall asleep, your brain creates entire worlds. It can generate complex structures, emotions, sensations, and all of it feels real to you until you wake up. So why not consider the possibility that right now you're in a similar state, but you just don't know how to wake up? In dreams, we see, feel, fear, and rejoice. Yet it's all just signals in the brain. Our consciousness can deceive us, building an artificial reality that feels just as real as our waking life. But what if the only difference between a dream and reality is that we can't wake up from one of them, because it's far more deeply embedded in our perception? Some people get trapped in false awakenings. They believe they've woken up, only to realize they're still asleep. They feel reality, just like you do now, but soon understand that everything around them is just a dream, and they can't escape it. If that can happen within a dream, how can we be certain that our life isn't exactly the same? And what if we've never actually woken up? Not once. What if our reality is just another layer of dreaming, one in which we're trapped simply because we don't know how to get out? Maybe we think we're alive, but in truth, we're endlessly shifting from one dream to the next, never reaching true awakening. Since ancient times, humanity has sensed that the world around us is not as simple as it seems. Different cultures, from Indian sages to European philosophers, have arrived at the same conclusion. Reality is something fragile, illusory, deceptive, like dark water in which we see only a reflection, but never the true essence. Perhaps we live in a world that only appears stable and logical, but in truth is merely a temporary projection of consciousness, masking a true, unknowable reality where there are no boundaries of time, space, or self as we understand it. We may think that everything around us is solid, that we have a past, a present, and a future. But what if all of it is just an artificial construct designed to keep us in this state, preventing us from moving beyond perception? What if our minds have been programmed not to ask too many questions, not to notice the cracks in the illusion, and not to seek a way out of the dream that lasts an entire lifetime? Buddhism teaches that the whole world is Maya, the great illusion, a veil that conceals the truth. Only a few are able to tear this veil, realize they are inside a dream, step beyond it, and attain enlightenment. But what if we are all merely shadows in someone else's dream? Shadows that can never wake up, because for us, awakening would mean disappearance? And what if those who call themselves enlightened have only realized that their very existence depends on the will of a great dreamer, and all they can do is watch as the walls of their illusions collapse, without the power to change anything? What if the only truth is that no one will ever escape this simulation, because even the awareness of the dream is just another layer within it? If that's the case, then what are the limits of this reality, and is there anything beyond them? Or does only emptiness await us on the other side? Gnosticism claimed that this world is a trap, created by higher powers to keep consciousness in a state of sleep, preventing it from escaping limited perception. If that's true, then who controls this dream? Who is the great sleeper keeping us trapped in illusion? And can they even be awakened? What if their awakening would be the end of everything we know, and our reality would dissolve like morning mist beneath the rising sun, leaving only emptiness where there was never truly a past, a future, or even a we? Perhaps our world exists only as long as the dreamer observes it, and the moment they close their eyes, it all vanishes, like a non-existent city fading in the morning light. But what if this isn't the only dream? What if even the one who sees us is just a figure in another dream, dreamed by someone else? Then how many layers of dreaming separate us from true reality, if such a thing even exists? Some mystics claim they've seen beyond the veil, that they've escaped the dream and felt something greater, an infinite consciousness embracing all existence. But what if their stories are just the mind's way of fabricating an illusion of escape, to keep from going mad at the thought that no escape exists at all? Maybe what they call enlightenment is nothing more than a transition into yet another layer of the dream, another reality, just as illusory as ours, only operating under different rules. And what if that too is just a built-in mechanism of the dream, meant to give people the illusion of hope, while in truth, they only descend deeper into the labyrinth of consciousness, where no exit exists, only endless new levels leading nowhere? Imagine you've lived your entire life believing the world around you is your reality. You've grown used to the sequence of events, to the laws of physics, to the idea that every morning you wake up in your room, walk out the door, meet people who remember you, and do things that make logical sense. You've become comfortable with the sensation of time, with the belief that you have a past and a future, that you have choices, that you are in control of your life. But what if all of this is just a set design? What if you've never truly woken up, and your world is just a storyline written by someone or something that watches you from behind the curtain? What if your free will is just an illusion, created to ensure you never realize you're actually trapped? Have you ever noticed strange glitches in reality? Déjà vu, as if you've seen this moment before, even though you know it's impossible. Coincidences that are too improbable to be random. People who say odd things, words that seem significant but whose meaning slips through your fingers. Maybe these are all clues, hints left behind for you to find. Maybe they're keys you need to gather in order to solve the mystery of your reality. If that's true, who left them? Was it you? Someone who was here before you? Or the one who's dreaming this dream? What if your entire existence is nothing more than a sequence of pre-programmed events? Are you truly sure that every decision you make is your own? If you tried to do something completely unpredictable, something you've never done before, would it actually change anything? Or would the world adapt to bring you back into the familiar script? Maybe you've already tried, and every time, reality smoothed over the cracks, pulling you back onto the same old track. Have you ever wondered why we don't remember the moment we first arrived in this world? Why our consciousness seems to switch on at a certain point, and we simply accept its rules without question? What if our memory starts at that moment, not because we didn't exist before, but because that's how the dream is designed? What if your entire life is just a fragment of a dream that began not with your birth, but when someone started dreaming you into existence? Then how many times have you already lived this dream? How many times have you forgotten who you are and plunged back into the same events, thinking you're living them for the first time? And now imagine this. If you truly did wake up, what would you see? The real world? Or just another dream, deeper than the last? Maybe you've already passed through thousands of dreams, each time thinking you've finally awakened. Perhaps every morning, when you open your eyes, you're simply entering a new level of the dream. And each new day is just another version of the same illusion, with subtle changes to convince you it's real. And what if this process is infinite? What if every time you begin to realize you're dreaming, reality resets itself, sending you back to the beginning, with no memory of having been here before? What if the world is a labyrinth with no exit? What if every time you approach the truth, the system reshapes itself, building a new version of reality where you must start over again? Maybe that's why you don't remember how you got here. Maybe that's why it feels like you're living this life for the first time, when in reality, you've just forgotten that you've lived it hundreds, thousands, even millions of times before. And if all of this is true, if you really are dreaming, if your entire world is just a dream being seen by someone else, then what happens when the great dreamer finally opens their eyes? If you are just a figure inside someone's mind, then your existence depends entirely on that dream. But what happens if the dream ends? What if it fades like morning mist, and you disappear, because you were never anything more than a character in someone else's dream? Or maybe the opposite is true. Maybe if you become aware of this, if you understand that you're inside the dream, you can take control and break the cycle. Can you wake up? Or have you tried before, only to discover that each time you simply enter a new level of the dream? Do you hear this voice? You're still here. You followed this story, you dove into its essence, you searched for answers to questions that were always nearby, but you never noticed them. But what if it wasn't you listening to the voice? What if the voice was listening to you? What if this voice is something more than just words? Maybe it's a part of the dream itself, trying to make you realize that reality is not what you've always believed it to be. You've felt it before, haven't you? You've noticed moments when the world around you seemed unreal, when people's faces felt familiar, but you couldn't remember where you knew them from, when words felt too meaningful, but their meaning slipped away, leaving only a quiet sense of unease. What if those weren't random feelings? What if they were signs? What if you've been in this place before, heard this voice, asked these questions, and forgotten? Close your eyes. Feel how reality begins to blur. You're not quite sure where you are anymore, are you? This world feels just as real as everything that came before it. But what if it's just another room in a dream? What if this very moment is not the present, but just another layer of sleep that someone is dreaming right now? Do you remember how you got here? Do you remember what came before this? Or is your memory just another story, created the moment you began listening to this voice? You're breathing. You feel your body. You feel the weight of reality pressing down on you like a blanket of sleep wrapped around your mind. But if you are dreaming, then who is the one asleep? Who is seeing this dream? You or someone else? And if it's someone else, where are they now? And what happens if they open their eyes? Now ask yourself the most important question. Have you ever truly woken up? Or has your entire life been a series of false awakenings, each time finding yourself inside a new dream, believing this time it must be real? What if your memory of this dream will vanish, like memories of the dreams you had last night? What if you've already forgotten it before? Take a breath, deeper, slower. Listen to the silence. Are you ready? Then wake up.